Hello, everyone. This is Tribe Fan once again, giving another update for my 1967 New York Mets Stratomatic Super Advanced Replay. In this update, there will be 7 games, games 137 through 143. In game 137, the Mets traveled to Crosley Field, where Tom Seaver would take on Gary Nolan. The Mets would get out on top first. On the top of the second, a leadoff double by Tommy Davis, and 2 batters later, Ron Swoboda singles him home, give the Mets a 1-0 lead. The Mets would threaten in the fourth when Tommy Davis got thrown out by Vada Pinson on a potential sacrifice fly. The Mets would then reload the bases, but Tom Seaver struck out to end the inning. The Reds would score in the bottom half of the fourth. Pete Rose and Darren Johnson back-to-back singles. And then 2 batters later, Tommy Helms doubles home Pete Rose to tie the game at 1. Mets would get a 2-out rally in the sixth when Ed Charles and Jerry Grody would get base hits. And then Tom Seaver delivers with a 2-out single, giving the Mets a 2-1 lead. The Mets would add another run in the seventh when Cleon Jones has a leadoff single. He went to second on a Bob Johnson single. And then 2 batters later, Ron Swoboda with his second RBI of the day singles home Cleon Jones with the third run of the game. However, Tom Seaver would run out of gas in the 7th inning. A leadoff home run by Leo Cardenas. And then 2 batters later, Tommy Harper goes deep. And the game is now tied at 3. We head to the 9th inning where Bob Lee is in his second inning of relief. And the Mets get 3 singles in a row, loading the bases. And then Ed Charles shows his patience by drawing a bases-loaded walk, and the Mets take a 4-3 lead. Jerry Arriga would finish the 9th with no more scoring, and then Ron Taylor would finish the 9th inning, snapping the Mets' 11-game losing streak. Seaver would get the no decision, going 7 innings, giving up 9 hits, 3 runs, no walks, and 5 strikeouts. Don Shaw would get the win in relief, with Ron Taylor getting the save and Bob Lee getting the loss. The Mets head back to Shea Stadium to face the Cardinals in game 138. Nelson Briles would face Jack Fisher. Mets would start the bottom half of the first off right with a leadoff walk by Harrelson. He went to second on a ground out. And then Bob Johnson doubles him home to give the Mets a 1-0 lead. And the top of the second, a leadoff double by Orlando Cepeda. He went to third when Mike Shannon reached on a Bob Johnson error. And with 2 outs, Dal Maxville with an RBI single to tie the game at 1. The Mets would regain the lead in the bottom of the fourth when Bob Johnson hits a leadoff double. And then Ron Swoboda's 2-out single scores Johnson to give the Mets a 2-1 lead. The Cardinals answer right back again. Lou Brock with a 1-out double. Roger Maris walks, and then Orlando Cepeda hits it high. He hits it far, and it is gone. 3-run homer for Cepeda, and that's all for Jack Fisher. His line is 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs. Only 3 were earned, with 1 walk and 3 strikeouts. Jerry Buchik would hit a pinch hit home run in the bottom of the 8th, and then Joe Horner pitching the 9th got the first 2 outs, and then Ron Swoboda gave the Mets something to be excited about with a 2-out double, but Ed Charles pops out to end the game, and the Mets lose 4-3. Briles would get the win, Fisher the loss, and Joe Horner the save. The next game against the Cardinals is game 139, is Bob Gibson versus Cal Kuntz. And the Cardinals would actually get the scoring off early first in the top of the third. Kurt Flood with a leadoff double. Went to third on a Roger Maris single. And then scores on an Orlando Cepeda single, giving the Cardinals a 1-0 lead. The Mets would answer right back in the bottom half of the third. Cal Kuntz with a 2-out single. And then back-to-back singles by Harrelson and Larry Stahl. And the single by Stahl scores Kuntz to tie the game at 1. In the top of the fourth, Bob Gibson says, yeah, I can do this hitting thing too. Shows his patience with a leadoff walk. He goes to third and Brock to second on a single and an error. And then Flood brings them both home with a single, making the score 3-1 Cardinals. In the bottom of the ninth, Gibson's defense would let him down. Bob Johnson goes to single after reaching with a single and going to second on an error. After 2 outs, Jerry Buchik singles home Bob Johnson. And then Rod Shandings takes the ball and gives it to Ron Willis. But that did not stop the bleeding. Cleon Jones singles Buchik to second. And then Tommy Davis, pinch hitting for Grody, doubles home Buchik, and we have bonus baseball. But not for long. Bob Henley, who was pitching in his second inning of relief, walks Cepeda. Tim McCarver sacrifices Cepeda to second. And then after Mike Shannon strikes out, Julian Javier singles home Cepeda give the Cardinals a 3-2 lead. Horner pitches a scoreless ninth, giving the Mets the unfortunate 4-3 defeat. Willis would get the win in relief, Henley the loss, and Horner the save. In Game 140, the Reds would now come to Shea Stadium. It was Mel Queen against Danny Frisella in Game 140. In the bottom of the fourth, a leadoff triple by Harrelson, and then 2 batters later, Ed Kranepool doubles home Harrelson, and the next batter, Tommy Davis, he hits a high, he hits a far, and it is gone. A 2-run homer, his 20th of the year, give the Mets a 3-0 lead. Tony Perez would hit a home run in the 7th, a solo shot, cutting the deficit to 3-1. And in the 9th, off of Ron Taylor, Veda Pinson doubled, leading off. Then 2 batters later, Tony Perez singles him home. However, the Reds would score no more, and the Mets win 3-2. Their record after this game was 53-87. Frisella went 8 innings, giving up 2 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. Ron Taylor would get a skittish save in the 9th, and Mel Queen with 7 innings getting the hard luck loss. In Game 141, Tom Seaver faces Sammy Ellis, and the Reds score first in the 2nd inning. Back-to-back singles by Lee May and Tony Perez puts runners on 1st and 3rd. Tommy Helms walked to load the bases, and then May scores on a John Edwards double play ball, giving the Reds a 1-0 lead. Mets come back in the bottom half of the inning. Tommy Davis leadoff single. He went to second on a ground out. Goes to third on a Ron Swoboda single. And then Jerry Buchik goes deep in an unlikely surge, giving the Mets a 3-1 lead. In the top of the third, Pete Rose doubled. And then Veda Pinson shows he can hit the long ball and ties the game at 3. In the bottom half of the third, Harrelson singles. He goes to third on a Cleon Jones single, and then scores on a Bob Johnson fielder's choice. And then Tommy Davis moves to third when Bob Johnson singles, and he scores on a fielder's choice by Ed Kranepool. In the top of the 9th, Tom Seaver gives up a leadoff homer, and that would be it for him. And his line, 8 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Then Wes Westrom says, Tom, you've done well enough, but we're going to go to the bullpen. And the Mets fans give him a standing ovation. Don Shaw finishes off the 9th, giving the Mets a 5-4 win. Sammy Ellis would get the loss for the Reds. In Game 142, now this will be where you'll notice a little bit might be different. Gary Nolan faces Bill Graham. Now, I know what you're thinking. Bill Graham is probably not carded for Stratomatic, and you would be right. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Utah Mike and Chris from Stratomatic Delaware for offering to give up their cards for this, but I went and purchased the Strat card app. So thank you guys, but I've decided to give some money to Stratomatic. It's a pitcher's duel, actually. The Mets threatened in the bottom of the second, back-to-back singles by Buchik and Don Bosch puts runners at first and third. Grody was intentionally walked to get to the pitcher, and Graham struck out to end the inning. Graham actually pitched pretty well. He went 6 1/3 of no-hit baseball until Lee May singled in the 7th. But after a loud out by Tommy Harper and a Pete Rose double, the ball was given to Joe Grisenda, and that was not relief. Uh, you got the second out, and then Lee May doubles, scoring Pete Rose, and then Tony Perez hits a triple. No, that's not a misprint, and that scores Lee May. Nolan strikes out the side in the ninth to get the win. Nolan went the distance, giving up 5 hits, 1 walk, which was intentional, and 9 strikeouts, and he retired the last 16 in a row. Graham was the hard luck loser, 8 1/3, 2 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. And finally, the game 143, Don Maloney versus Tug McGraw. In the first back-to-back singles by Veda Pinson and Pete Rose, and then Lee May hits a sacrifice fly to give the Reds a 1-0 lead. In the bottom of the second, Joe Mook and Cleon Jones had back-to-back walks, and then Jerry Grody doubles home Mook for his 32nd RBI of the year. In the top of the fourth, Tony Perez singles, and then Tommy Helms on a beautiful hit and run hits one in the gap, even letting Perez score. And that was a double by Helms. Johnny Bench walked, and then Leo Cardenas doubles home Helms to give the... And then Maloney actually hits a sacrifice fly to cap off the scoring in the fourth. The Reds lead 4-1. In the bottom of the fourth, Grody, the leadoff single, decided it was enough for McGraw, and Larry Stahl with a pinch hit double. And then Kevin Collins, who played second base in this game, hits a sacrifice fly. And then Bob Johnson hits a single, scoring Larry Stahl to cut the deficit to 4-3. In the top of the sixth, Johnny Bench doubles home Tommy Helms to raise the Reds' lead to 5-3. Pinson singles, steals second, and goes to third on a Grody error in the 7th inning, and then scores on a Pete Rose single off of Don Cardwell to make it 6-3. Rose singled home Pinson in the 9th to make it 7-3. In the bottom of the 9th, it got a little interesting. Walks to Charles and Collins, puts runners on first and second. Johnson with the second RBI of the day, scoring Charles. And the tying run comes to home plate, however, does not come to fruition for the Mets, and they lose 7-4. McGraw goes 4 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, and 4 Ks for the loss, and Maloney with the win, going 7 1/3. Ted Abernathy with the 5-out save for the Reds. For those of you wondering what the Mets record is after 143 games, it is 54-89, which is their exact record as it was in real life. All right, well, the next series is the Mets against the Braves at Atlanta. And that's all for this video. If you guys like what you see, please hit that like button. If you've not already subscribed, please click on the subscribe button and click the bell icon so you'll be notified when my next video comes out. All right, and as I always say, may your dice be lively and your rolls be good.